Welcome to this introduction to Kairos, Wonders of the Universe, one of the first initiatives of ENSO Education Institute. And I'm so happy to see so many of my friends and colleagues, new friends, and even family who have joined us today for this groundbreaking event. Now, welcome to you all. We invite you to open your chat window if you haven't done so already, so you can type in comments or questions all along the way. While I'm talking, you can be chatting. Now, let's start by typing your name, affiliation, and location into the chat box so we can get to know some of the amazing people we have with us today. Today, we hope to explain how, why, who, where, when, and what ENSO and Kairos are all about. Some of you may think it's just a game, or just in virtual reality, or just for schools, or just for certain age groups. Well, all of those are part of it, but it's much more. I'm Dr. Martin Riola, founder and Chief Academic Officer of ENSO Education Institute. In this presentation, you'll get to meet Corey Riola, co-founder and CEO of ENSO Education Institute, and Brian Collins, the president and former Walt Disney Imagineer. And later, you'll meet our collaborator and virtual world consultant, Steve Lewis. With my 20 years of experience as an elementary, middle, and high school teacher, as well as a later career as a university professor, and 20 years as curriculum supervisor for Wisconsin's state education agency, I developed some innovative ideas for how to improve education. And with my partner, Dr. Christina Alvarez, we created and launched an innovative high school called Design Lab High as a proof of concept for a new way of teaching and learning. We are fortunate, after a year-long vetting process, to be one of 10 teams to receive a highly competitive XQ Super School Award. One of the peak experiences of my life was, after 5 years of hard work, to stand on a stage in Washington, D.C. with Dr. Alvarez, students, teachers, parents, administrators, board members, community members, supporters, and friends of a school we created from the ground up to receive a $10 million XQ Super School Award presented by none other than MC Hammer. I decided to take those $10 million innovative ideas and develop a comprehensive, coherent global education initiative. I was honored to be accepted into Singularity University's incubator program for innovative startups. That round-the-clock, 7 days a week, 2-month residency program in Silicon Valley with 40 other entrepreneurs from around the world resulted in the initiatives we're presenting to you today. There was a meeting in 2018 of 7 of the former US National Secretaries of Education, and they made a startling joint statement in which they all agreed the American education system is failing. It's failing our students, teachers, families, and the nation. To make matters worse, they said, the situation isn't getting any better. ENSO Education Institute has set out to create alternative solutions to the problems of education today and in the future. The world in the last century has gone from the Wright brothers' first airplane flight to Americans landing on the moon. We've gone from Henry Ford's Model T to self-driving electric cars. While the world has changed exponentially in the last century, the education system is still operating under largely the same model that was developed over 150 years ago. The standardized curriculum with lockstep scope and sequence is a top-down model, largely shaped by a small number of big textbook publishers and wealthy testing companies. Some students go to school in dilapidated urban ghettos that lack adequate resources, supplies, and staffing, while a couple of miles away, other students are attending plush $40,000 a year high schools on campuses that look like Ivy League colleges. Inadequate funding and lack of teacher training cause students in many schools to go without the technologies that would help them learn. While the world and technologies are changing exponentially, schools are making slow, incremental changes by tweaking an outdated system. Schools still operate under an assembly line model created a century ago to prepare factory workers for the manufacturing industries of the time. And the problem is not the teachers, not the students, administrators, or families, The problem is with the education system itself. The system is not broken. The schools are working just as they were designed to. That system, after all, produced all of us. We're doing pretty well. And the United States has become one of the greatest nations on earth. The problem is that that model that worked for us before is not working as well for today's students or for new challenges facing the world today. And it certainly is not going to work for students, the nation, or the world in the future. We need a new model of education. To solve these problems, we created ENSO Education Institute and Kairos, Wonders of the Universe. ENSO Education Institute is the parent company of Kairos. We address education from 4 directions: developing new curriculum models, creating alternative instructional methods, establishing an innovative assessment alternative, and creating a more responsive educational management system. Kairos, Wonders of the Universe, is one of ENSO's first initiatives to demonstrate innovative alternatives to traditional systems in the first 2 of those areas: curriculum development and instructional methods. I'd like Corey to tell you a bit about the meaning, philosophy behind ENSO Education Institute and Kairos, Wonders of the Universe.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey. It's really wonderful to be here with all of you today. When we named the ENSO Education Institute, we drew inspiration from this symbol from Zen Buddhism. ENSO in Japanese means circle of enlightenment, circle of togetherness, and we believe that it means strength and wisdom in that togetherness. Also, because this symbol is traditionally hand painted in a single meditative brushstroke, it represents for us the awareness of the present moment and the beauty of imperfection and just letting go of the fear of failure. When we think about the big picture of the ENSO Education Institute, we really think of it as a comprehensive learning system. It's going to touch on every aspect of curriculum, instruction, assessment, management. In today's presentation, we'll be focusing mostly on curriculum and instruction, but we have plans to hit all of those, and certainly courses, events, resources you'll hear all about today. Just a little bit about our journey to this point. We began with a planning retreat in Orlando, and out of that retreat emerged the ENSO Education Institute. After that, we put on a successful storytelling symposium, also in Orlando, and that was really the kickoff of the decade of imagination. Where are we right now? We're in the process of putting together our development team. We're launching Kairos today. We can't wait to tell you about it. The Game Master series is the series that will support players and game masters in the Kairos game. And we're also very excited about the Journal of Media Literacy. They asked us to guest edit their most recent edition, and that should be coming out very, very shortly, and we're very excited about that. And then, of course, virtual environments. You'll hear more about it later on, but we've been exploring the virtual environments, and we're very excited about the possibilities that that offers. So where are we going from here? Well, we're going to continue all of those things that I just talked about, but we're also going to get back into the real world eventually. When it's safe to do so, we're gonna have events in Dubai at the World Expo in 2022. We have plans to go to Los Angeles at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures and the Lucas Museum of Narrative Arts in Los Angeles. Also go to the Lego House in Denmark and the world's largest children's museum in Indianapolis. Looking forward to all of those. So Kairos. There are 2 words for time in Greek: chronos and kairos. Chronos is the one that we traditionally think about, chronological time. But then there's this other concept of kairos, which means the exact right time, the opportune moment in time. The ancient Greeks would use this word to describe that moment when you pull the bow back in archery, and then you know just the right moment to release it and send the arrow to its target. That's Kairos. And we think it's time for Kairos. So what is Kairos? Well, it's a transformative project which players are challenged to imagine, design, and create a more perfect world for themselves, but also for everyone else. And what are we going to do to support them? We're going to provide leadership development opportunities for Kairos participants. We're also going to provide resources and support for them. And most importantly, it's all about peak experiences. We're going to give players and game masters peak experiences in the Kairos experience. To talk more about peak experiences and the principles of Kairos, I'm going to hand it back to Marty. There you go.
Thanks, Corey. So our alternatives to traditional education, schooling, and learning are built on several key principles, and one, as Corey has mentioned, is peak experiences. One of the major mistakes in developing the original education system was separating development of our cognitive abilities from development of our feelings and emotions. Sir Ken Robinson said that we treat our bodies as if they're just vehicles to get our heads to the next meeting. We have to bring back our insatiable curiosity, the visceral joy of figuring things out, the excitement of peak performance, and the satisfaction of a job well done. Education has to be self-directed. In the early days, computers could only carry out instructions that were programmed into them. Now there's a thing called deep learning, where computers have evolved to the point where they're solving problems we didn't even ask them to. Computers can teach themselves to play games by figuring out the rules on their own. They can beat our best human players and come up with strategies that no human player had ever thought of. Like new computers, people can also learn without content programmed into them. People can actually learn much better when they are self-directed. Education needs to be decentralized. We use textbooks in schools to gather information from many places into one easy to access source. We used to have to do the same with computers by feeding data into them and having them spit out computations. Today, computers search through massive databases in networked resources around the globe through the cloud. They compile their own data from multiple sources and see patterns we hadn't even noticed. Learning is much more effective if students draw information from multiple sources. Rather than all reading from the same book, learning is much richer if students draw from different sources with different perspectives on any particular topic. And parallel processing. Traditional learning too often discourages cooperation and sharing of information. You know, keep your eyes on your own paper, stop talking to each other. Many computers connected together and working in parallel solve problems in moments that would have taken weeks, months, or years by traditional methods. Students learn better by figuring things out together and sharing ideas to solve difficult problems and accomplish complex tasks than they could do on their own. Personally meaningful. Too often students are expected to carry out tasks without being told why or knowing or caring why. They're provided answers to questions they didn't even ask. And when they do have real questions, too often they're told to pay attention and stick to the task at hand, or wait for the answer to their questions in a different class or at a different time. Learning is more effective when it's personally meaningful to the learner, so they learn what they need to know when they need to know it. And purposeful. Too much of schooling consists of schoolwork, classroom assignments that don't relate to real-world problems or the needs and interests of the students. Understanding the meaning and purpose behind work is more effective than just the admonition that you're going to need this someday. And systemic, that's the main feature of our endeavor. Schools were originally set up with disconnected subject areas that too often compete with each other for attention, time, and resources, rather than trying to show the connections among systems. Systems thinking and systemic approaches to learning are essential to solve the complex, interconnected, systemic problems we face today. And as Corey pointed out, experiential is the key feature. There are many techniques to turn dry information into meaningful experiences. And we learn better through stories than through disconnected data and information. We learn better by interacting with stimulating environments and by engaging our senses. There are a variety of ways in which people like you, your friends and colleagues can be involved in the Kairos Wonders of the Universe project. We invite everyone to initially join us as players to personally experience firsthand the power of Kairos. Some of you will eventually become game masters and provide guidance to a team of players. You'll set up regional base camps and local outposts for ENSO and Kairos. Others of you will become guardians or be Kairos champions, providing support and encouragement and resources to teams of players, game masters at base camps and outposts around the world. As you listen to this presentation, we encourage you to think about what role you can see yourself playing and type that into the chat window. There's also another category called Grandmasters, who provide inspiration and guidance for the players and game masters. My Grandmasters include people who inspired me, like Walt Disney, Buckminster Fuller, Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and many more. Contemporary Grandmasters include people like Ray Kurzweil, Peter Diamandis, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, and many more. We encourage you to type your own inspirational mentors and Grandmasters in the chat box. In Kairos Wonders of the Universe, we challenge players, world builders, game masters, and guardians to first get in touch with your own dreams and aspirations. In this process, we want everyone to become the best version of themselves. Highly successful people display grit and curiosity, as well as knowledge and skills. And then, after looking inward to find your passion, we challenge everyone to look outward to see where you can make the biggest difference in the world. We want to help you match your passion with your purpose. How can we make the world a better place together? Here we need to use and develop additional skills like collaboration, creativity, empathy, and courage. To guide us in our goal to make the world a better place, we draw upon the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Singularity University has a similar list they call the Global Grand Challenges. The goals include big challenges like world peace, universal justice, global partnerships, poverty, hunger, sustainability, environmental concerns around climate and water. We challenge you and all participants to find where you can feel you can make the greatest personal satisfaction and feeling of accomplishment while making the biggest positive impact in the real world. We do this by taking everyone through what we call the 4 quests of Kairos. And I'd like to have Corey talk a bit about them.
Absolutely. So the 4 quests of Kairos are question, imagine, make, and share. Just going to spend a little bit of time on each of these and let you know how these work. So the first quest, question, this is the phase where you ask yourself, who am I? You're really looking at, what is my passion? This is also a place where you notice any biases that you have and any prejudice that you possess. After you've sort of looked inside, you also need to look outside with empathy and think about what does the world need? And hopefully you can find some way to marry those two, the passion, your passion, and also what the world needs. This is also the time to build your team, put your team together. The second quest is the imagine quest. This is the ideation quest where you visualize possible solutions. This is where no idea is too crazy. You need to listen to others in this phase, come up with as many ideas as you possibly can. Once you find your idea, you can begin quest 3, which is the make quest. This is where you begin to prototype. You make a model. Once you have that prototype, you're able to go out and test it, show it to other people, make improvements. This is really the iteration phase here, make. And then the last quest, quest 4, is share. Very important. Once you've done all this work, you need to take it back into the world and show it and share it with everybody. So you want to present it to local stakeholders, but also we'd like you to submit a video of it to us so that we can spread it to a wider audience. Some of the benefits of Kairos, it's really simple, but we think profound. Become the person that you always hoped you could and make the world a better place for everyone. It really comes down to that. You could imagine if let's say a high school student were taking this project on, and they went through all those phases and came up with that project that they could share it with somebody at the college they would like to attend. We think that it would help them get into the college, maybe find the best fit for them at that school, maybe get scholarships, and certainly help them be successful. We think something like this would be much more useful than an SAT score, for example. But we also feel that this can be well beyond traditional education settings. We feel like the benefits that you can get from Kairos can benefit you in career and in life. Everything that an employer is looking for, everything that's going to make you the best person you can, communication, teamwork, persistence, competence. That's everything that Kairos can give you. I'm going to turn it back to Marty to talk a little bit about our timeline.
Thanks, Corey. There are currently 2 supportive initiatives being undertaken with ENSO Education Institute events and Kairos Wonders of the Universe Game Master Series. Kairos will be launched at the beginning of next year with what we call the Game Master Series. This is a 16-week certification program that meets for 90 minutes once a week for game masters and guardians to become knowledgeable and proficient in implementing Kairos and the ENSO framework. We'll be having additional information and enrollment sessions like this in January and begin our first Game Master series in February with the first quest, which, as you know, is Question. And we'll explore another of the quests each month with Imagine in March, Make in April, and ending with Share in May. And each month will be packed with 4 weeks of different information, ideas, resources, discussion, networking, challenges, experiences. And the classes are 90 minutes once a week with a group discussion session in between. During each of the years of the Decade of Imagination, ENSO Education Institute will provide special events, workshops, institutes, and symposiums that support Kairos and other educational initiatives at our base camps and outposts around the world. Upcoming events include a conference at our base camp in Dubai during the World Expo. We'll have conferences in Los Angeles at Base Camp Hollywood when the new Academy Museum of Motion Pictures and the George Lucas Museum of Narrative Arts open. And these courses and events will be offered and expanded upon every year through what we're calling the Decade of Imagination, 2020 to 2030. We invite you to participate as if you were players while you prepare to become game masters and guardians. What's something you have yet to accomplish in your life? What do you want to become? Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing 5 years from now? What major challenges can you undertake that will lead to a peak experience and a feeling of flow in your life? Make one of your New Year's resolutions to change something in your life and use the Game Master series as part of your hero's journey from the first 5 months of 2021. Change your life forever and become the person you always wanted to be. Sign up for the upcoming Game Master series. We won't have time for everyone to share your own stories today, so we have 4 different ways to communicate with each other. We have the ensoeducation.com website. There's the chat box where you can put in your comments and questions as we go along. We also ask that you go to the ENSO Education Institute Facebook page and to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you're doing. Take a minute to click on the link to the Facebook page that's in the chat box and click like and bookmark it for later. The Facebook page will be one of the main ways we can communicate with each other after this presentation. Another way to communicate after this presentation is an interest form that we're putting a link to in the chat. And it'll be on the Facebook page as well. So you can fill that out later. Brian Collins, one of our partners, has been monitoring the chat box for us. Brian, what are the people saying?
Well, we've got a lot of people who are really interested in what we're doing here and the way that we're hopefully trying to transform the system of education. A lot of people are really kind of frustrated with the fact that even in this day and age, most courses end with a summative exam. And I think one of the things that is appealing to Kairos is the fact that, you know, it's not like that. It's giving the students the opportunity to figure out how they want to learn and consume information and education that's best for them, and to get educators and other people involved to kind of help them meet those goals. So.
Yeah, they use the term summative assessment, and it's actually subtractive assessment. I mean, you take a test and they tell you what you got wrong. The system we're building on is showing what you've accomplished, what you're doing right.
Yeah.
Anything else coming up on the chat list, Brian?
Um,
Well, people can keep adding things in there as we go along.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I want to give you a glimpse into the scope of Kairos and the Game Master series that we'll launch in January. And this overview will be very quick and may create more questions than it answers, but just understand that everything here is part of the Kairos curriculum and will be covered in detail in the Game Master series. So far, we've told you why we're here, who it is we're doing this for, and how you can be involved. So let's take a look at what is included. Curriculum is the term we use to answer the question, what should we know and be able to do? The curriculum is built around about a dozen singularities, things that came into existence that didn't exist before. As I go through these, think about what content areas interest you most, either in your career or in your outside interests, and type them into the chat window so we know the range of interests within our group. The singularities go from the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, to the singularity still to come in 2045, which is the age of superintelligent machines. Our curriculum has three parts. It's three curriculums in one. The first is a standard curriculum rooted in the past that makes up much of the traditional school curriculum. This is our foundation of knowledge, experience, and wisdom. And just like the roots of a tree, our knowledge of the past continues to grow. Another part of the curriculum is design thinking, upon which Kairos is built. And that helps us learn how to imagine, design, and create a better future. By learning from the past, we learn how things are in the world. Design thinking helps us create how things might be. Like flowers and fruit and acorns and pine cones on a tree, there's always new growth and the promise of new life that ensures our future. The third part of the curriculum is about the present, our lives right now. What's holding us back from being the people we always wanted to be? Are we as happy as we'd like to be? Do we have a feeling of meaning and purpose in our lives? Could we be more courageous and peaceful, creative, understanding? Like the growth rings in the trunk of a tree, we broaden our knowledge and experiences each year through our lives. The entire three-part curriculum is not about learning and memorizing facts and figures. It's about curating the abundance of information flooding our lives and developing conceptual understanding about how everything fits together in clear and coherent systems. The first system in our infinite universe. Imagine when people thought the stars were a few thousand dots of light on a dome above our heads. Now we use physics and cosmology and mathematics to understand the billions of solar systems with billions of galaxies that stretch for trillions of light years in all directions. Our solar system, imagine when just 500 years ago, people learned that we had it all wrong and the sun does not rise in the east or set in the west. It's the Earth that's moving around the sun. Astronomy and chemistry have taught us much about our solar system, our sun, and neighboring planets. And our Earth with its oceans of water, shifting land masses, and thin layer of atmosphere, so far appears to be unique in the universe. But since there are billions more solar systems and planets throughout the universe, it seems like more planets like ours must exist somewhere. We learn about the Earth through fields like geology and physical geography. Then there's life. About 3.7 billion years ago, another singularity happened and life formed on Earth. This led to fields of study like biology, horticulture, and genetics. And we've been looking so far in vain to see if life occurred anywhere else in the universe. And then to consciousness. Life evolved from simple nervous systems to primitive reptilian brains designed for survival and reproduction, to mammalian brains designed for caring and cooperation, and finally to the human cerebral cortex designed for rational thinking, planning for the future. This adds up to another singularity, human consciousness, and modern humans with the ability to create complex languages and remember lessons learned from the past. And civilization 20,000 years ago is the result of that work. Humans went from hunting and gathering food to raising animals and planting crops. Notice we're now talking about not billions of years, but mere thousands. Change is speeding up. In the past 8,000 years, humans created writing, architecture, music, philosophy, and the arts, so unique to our human species that we call them the humanities. And science, only about 1,000 years ago, we invented science and the scientific method. Galileo is considered to be the first modern scientist, and he lived in the 1500s, just over 500 years ago. Science brought us from the Renaissance in the 1400s to the Age of Enlightenment in the 1700s. And the Enlightenment age led to the Industrial Age, going through 4 stages, from the steam engine to electricity, gas and oil, to electronics, telecommunications, and finally computers. And computers spawned another singularity, the internet and World Wide Web, the information age, also known as the computer age or the digital age or the new media age. It's hard to remember that the World Wide Web that has transformed everyone's life on the planet is so new that it was created in 1989. And its creator, Tim Berners-Lee, is only 65 years old. There's one more singularity on the way during our lifetimes, at least during your lifetimes. Ray Kurzweil wrote about this in his book, The Singularity is Near. The singularity he refers to is when somewhere around 2045, just 25 years from now, machines will become smarter than humans. This coming singularity is the motivation behind ENSO Education Institute and Kairos Wonders of the Universe. Our mission is to prepare future generations of learners for the coming singularity of super intelligent beings. Add your interest areas to the chat box. So what we learn is the content, but the skills are how we will use what we learn. Most tools exist as both nouns and verbs, objects and actions. You use a hammer to hammer, a saw to saw. Tools and skills go hand in hand. Harvard psychologist Howard Gardner called the cognitive tools and skills intelligences, and said that there are 7 of them rather than just the 2 that most schools seem to focus on. Education gives too much attention to only language and math. They're the basis for standard IQ tests and most traditional instruction and assessment in schools still today. Howard Gardner says there are multiple intelligences, and the mistake we make in schools is neglecting most of them and not developing all of them. In our model of education, learners use all the tools they have. What skills are you most interested in? What are your major intelligences? How do you express your intelligences or practice your skills? Type your favorite things to do in the chat box. So the first of those is language. Linguistics. This is the ability to communicate through speaking and writing and reading. Writing gives us the amazing ability to record and transfer information and ideas from one generation to another. This game-changing ability is unique to humans. And then mathematics. It's a language of science. Numbers provide precise expression of every thought or concept formulated about everything in the universe through inescapable logic. Mathematicians like Einstein, he figured out the universe mathematically 70 years before we even had the tools to prove he was right. And sound. Sound and hearing are ways of communicating across space with vibrations through the air without even knowing where the sound is coming from. We learn through listening. We learn through speaking, like in lectures and conversations, or in dialogue, narration, and voiceovers in movies and television. Ambient sounds, like trees rustling in the wind and floorboards creaking underfoot. Sound effects, like horns blaring, sirens wailing, or lightsabers buzzing. And music that heightens drama, creates moods, and stirs the soul. And movement. Movement in education should be much more than recess or occasional physical education classes or sports or dance. We are instinctually attuned to pay attention to movement in our environments for survival and pleasure. Moving our bodies creates changes in ourselves and the world. We learn through movement. Gestures communicate information and even abstract ideas. Haptics is the perception of objects by touch. In product design, it's called hand feel. Movement is sometimes called kinetics. The enjoyment of movement, such as the beauty of dance, is sometimes called kinesthetics. And finally, vision. Vision is the process of deriving meaning from what we see. Research indicates that 80 to 85% of our perception, learning, cognition, and activities are mediated through vision. We see shapes, like in graphic design, in 2 dimensions. We see objects, like in product design, in 3 dimensions. And we see spaces, like in architecture and urban design, in 4 dimensions. Virtual reality and virtual worlds are often described in 5 and 6 dimensions, depending on whether you just experience the space or you actually impact the objects in the space through your actions. We've covered the why, who, when, what, and how of Kairos, and now we need to talk about where. We call our particular version of the place-based learning model for Kairos environments for learning. And we've created 6 base camps so far, each in different environments, and are developing more to eventually have 15 to 20 base camps around the world with hundreds of outposts. We invite you to work with one or more of our base camps and create your own local outposts so that we have an interconnected global network of base camps and outposts across the planet. Learning doesn't take place only in schools, and schooling doesn't take place only in classrooms. In Kairos, we learn by going outside the classroom to learn in nature, the built environment, media like film and video, imagined places like outer space, a colony on Mars, or a city under the seas. Many of our environments are simulations of life, like zoos, museums, and theme parks. And more people are exploring virtual worlds. So we've established what we call base camps in each of these environments. We invite game masters and guardians to establish local outposts wherever you are. Type into the chat window where you would like us to set up other base camps or outposts. People with us today, like Robin van de Zan and Joe Schwartz, could set up a design thinking base camp in Florence, Italy. Jun Suto, you could help us set up a base camp in Tokyo, Japan. In nature, we learn from the wisdom of nature and include the natural environment in education wherever we can find it, even if it's just a city park or a garden. We have a group of people with us today who are going to host an event for us in the 2nd week in August in nature and set up Base Camp Northwoods in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. People like Pat Colin and Bob Kovar are skilled environmentalists and outdoor guides who over the coming years will take us on camping, canoeing, kayaking, and skiing adventures in northern Wisconsin, upper Michigan, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, and the boundary waters of Minnesota. Their motto is, the real classroom is outside, get into it. And Kairos is also in the built environment. Our projects can take place anywhere you find the built environment. Now, over half the population now lives in cities. Cities are the cradle of civilization and culture, transmitting human achievement from generation to generation. We're establishing our first international base camp in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. Corey and I will be hosting an event in January 2022, a year from this January, in Dubai during the World Expo, where over 190 countries will be gathering to showcase the best features of global civilization. We'd planned to be there this January, but the pandemic caused the postponement of the World Expo. We'll learn in media as well. We learn through a great deal through media. Movies and videos and television can take us places we might not be able to otherwise experience because they're in the past or in the future or too far away or too small or too large or too dangerous. We have people with us today like Karen Ambrosch and Frank Baker, who are experts in media literacy. ENSO is establishing a media base camp in Hollywood, California, and we'll be hosting annual events around mediated learning in Los Angeles in cooperation with the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures and the George Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. And then we have imagined environments, imagined worlds. We have a base camp in our imaginations that will meet on Zoom with outposts in space, and colonies on Mars, or cities under the sea. Those with ideas for a future that does not yet exist can join us in Base Camp Imagination on Zoom the second week in July, and watch for announcements soon. We have simulated environments. Much learning takes place in simulated environments, like museums and zoos and theme parks. We've established a base camp for spatial narratives in Orlando, Florida. ENSO Education Institute was created out of a planning session we held in Orlando, where former Walt Disney Imagineer Brian Collins took us for a guided tour of the new attraction Star Wars Galaxy's Edge just after it had opened. Brian will be hosting annual events each November at Disney World in Base Camp Orlando. We're so proud to have Brian Collins as a partner in ENSO Education Institute and a developer of Kairos Wonders of the Universe. Brian, can you tell us a little bit about what to expect at Base Camp Orlando?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Orlando is home to some of the most amazing themed environments, and Disney, no doubt, is one of the most well-known creators of these environments. So what better place to have our base camp than Orlando? So when participants visit Base Camp Orlando, they'll learn how these simulated environments are relevant to education and how students and educators can connect the dots to not only their Kairos Wonders of the Universe projects, but even other larger initiatives and in the bigger sense to their lives as well. So, with that being said, we definitely look forward to hosting many of you and others at Base Camp Orlando. Hope we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Brian. And the last environment we'll experience today is virtual reality. We're building a base camp for ENSO and Kairos in the virtual world. Our virtual world consultant, Steve Lewis, and others are going to take us into virtual reality today. And Steve will tell you about his team and give us instructions for our trip into virtual reality.
All right, everybody. I hope that you are excited to join us on the next part of our program. And I can assure you, we are already live inside the Engage platform and the antics have already begun. So I'm cracking myself up over here. We've got a handful of people. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay, those of you who are going to be joining us inside Engage using a virtual reality device, I'm going to provide some quick instructions and we are going to take just a quick break in the program for those that are going into Engage to gear up and meet us on the inside. Now, anybody that is planning to continue to watch the show, we are going to be broadcasting live from inside virtual reality. So if you do not have a virtual reality device, just sit tight. The program will continue and we're going to get things up and running. Just some program notes, please, if it's okay. If you are using a virtual reality device, please wear headphones, okay? We want to make sure that the experience for everyone is going to be as good as it possibly can. I can assure you one of three things will probably go wrong today. So I want to give you an idea of what those things are. Typically, you're going to have one of two types of audio issues occur. It's either going to be some type of reverberation or echo. That echoing is because you're not muted in Zoom. So if you are leaving the Zoom meeting to come into virtual reality, please either mute yourself or just exit the Zoom meeting altogether. From this point forward, the entire rest of the program will happen in VR. So if you're planning to join us, you can just go ahead and exit, or you can stay on and watch. It's entirely up to you. There may be some latency. That's the other big term that you'll hear is latency. And so the only reason why you would experience that latency is if you're trying to listen to both audio feeds at the same time. So please make sure you mute your speaker on your computer if you're going to be inside virtual reality. Okay, that's the second and most important thing. You want to stay muted at all times unless you're actively participating in the program by speaking with either the hosts or with somebody during the social time. And the last issue that would or could come up has to do with bandwidth. Okay, that's the one thing that we're not going to be able to control, because internet connections can sometimes affect a person's experience, and that may be local only to you. So we're just bringing that to your attention. We've been doing these shows for about a year now, and the team that I'm about to introduce you to are known all across the metaverse, both as producers inside of the Engage platform and as well as in AltSpace. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce, let me just go down my list here. We have Tony Trudell. Tony is a professional VR videographer who captures or live streams events such as workshops, multi-day conferences, and they're all held in virtual reality. He founded Tony Cubed Studios in the summer of 2020 and has been working in the VR and education scene for the last 2 years. Through his efforts in teaching math and mixed reality, and using virtual reality to capture the work of others, Tony hopes to showcase the amazing potential of virtual reality as a social and educational tool. He hopes to be the agent of change that his institution and community needs for the adaptation of, and most importantly the investment of this spatial computing XR technology. Our world builder and designer, George Kenyon, is currently studying for his master's in architectural engineering at Cardiff University in the UK. He is a designer and has been actively involved in providing services to a wide range of organizations inside the virtual reality space. George is the founder of KEP, which is a freelance architecture and design firm, and he is the co-founder and photographer for the Cardiff-based charity Air Care Cardiff, which combats air pollution in the heart of Wales. Mr. K, you may know him as Camperman. Keith Kenyon has worked for many years in the international business development sector. And when he realized that many graduates and apprentices coming into the workplace did not have the necessary critical thinking and problem solving skills required to prepare themselves for the challenges facing business today. As a result of this, Keith has shifted his focus towards inspiring the next generation of students within the field of computer science, cybersecurity, digital communication, and business. Keith is currently researching how evolving digital technologies, such as artificial intelligence, digital learning platforms, virtual and augmented reality, and in particular, how virtual social environments and simulations can be used by developing teaching and learning experiences similar to what we are about to enjoy together today. And last but not least is the famous virtual reality photojournalist and videographer, Carlos Austin. Carlos is passionate about the arts with an emphasis on photography and video. His specialty is in-world video production services and photojournalism. He is also developing 360-degree capture capabilities using emerging drone technologies. So as I mentioned, we are going to group up inside of Engage right now. I see we've got a lot of people that have already joined us in there. We're going to divide up into 3 groups when you get there. So as you're logging in today, and if you can hear me, I'll repeat this once we get inside. If you consider yourself an expert in virtual reality, I want you to look for Chris Madsen, who's joining us from the Immersive VR Education Engage platform. Chris is going to be assisting us inside with the platform today. If you consider yourself an experienced user, but not necessarily sure how to use Engage, you're going to hang out with me. And guys and ladies, if you are a beginner with virtual reality or a beginner with the Engage platform. I want you to stay right in the middle, and we're going to hand over the program once we get going inside, and Keith Kenyon's going to take the rest of the crew, including all of you watching from Zoom, on a little walkabout program, okay? So I am going to sign off from Zoom right now, and you're going to see me on the other side. Thank you all for joining us today, and we're really excited to bring this program to you, okay? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve. We will be right there with you. All right. So for those of you who are hanging out on Zoom, again, just stay right where you are. You don't need to do a single thing. You can be able to watch the whole thing from your screen. What we were thinking we would do, maybe some of you don't know a whole lot about virtual reality, so we're just going to give you a little introduction to it here before you see the actual thing. And then after that, we'll take a short break while I put on my headset and get in there. So virtual reality, a few terms you'll hear out there. You'll hear augmented reality, AR, mixed reality, MR, and extended reality, XR. I'm not going to go through each of these, but you'll definitely hear them. Just know that when you hear people say extended reality, they're really talking about the umbrella of all of these things. And what we're focusing on today is definitely virtual reality, which is what you see this young lady wearing there. How do you get into virtual reality? Generally, it's with a head-mounted display, such as that you see Steve wearing there. This one is called the Oculus Quest. This is the newest of them. There are lots of them out there. This is a cool one because it's produced by Facebook, and it's I think Facebook subsidizes it a bit because it's only $299, or at least starting at $299. So it's very reasonable in terms of getting in there. It comes with this head-mounted display and then 2 controllers where you can control how you're moving around in the space. Oh, one of the cool things about the most recent technology with VR is this idea of 6 degrees of freedom. The idea here is that not only can you look around and see the actual space, but you can move in the space. It's really a game changer. If you've experienced kind of sort of old VR and you haven't experienced 6 degrees of freedom, it's a totally new experience. A couple of platforms that are out there. Altspace is probably the most popular social space that you can visit in VR. The other one that we're going to be looking at today is called Engage. Focuses a little bit more on education, which is why we love it. A couple of terms that you'll hear. Avatar. Avatar is very important. You know, really, once I go into VR, the next time you'll see me, I'm going to look like an avatar. I think you'll be able to recognize us because it's a pretty good facial recognition technology, but also our names will be above our heads, so you'll be able to see who we are. The other term you'll hear is environment, and when it comes to environments, here's an example of an environment. There's so many things you can do. You can have conversations in there. I've had some amazing conversations in VR. You can give presentations. That's what we're practicing today. You can move around in VR. If you want to go quickly, you can teleport. You can even fly. That's one of my absolute favorite things to do in VR, is to imagine that you can fly around. Another term that you hear is assets. Assets are really just elements, objects that you bring into the space. In this picture, this guy's playing around with the solar system. And so he's able to manipulate those. And that's really one of the great things about it. The reason we're so excited about VR as an educational opportunity is this experiential learning. We just feel like as the technology improves, the ability to interact with people in this space is just going to be a total game changer. Some things you can do once you're in the space, you can actually pick up objects. You can hold them in your hand, you can rotate them around, you can move them, you can make them larger or smaller, and then you can even share them with somebody. You can hand them off. You'll see some examples of these objects being created today. And of course, somebody has to build all these spaces. You're going to meet a couple of them, a couple of the world builders. The tools that they often use, the most popular tool is called Unity. It's a software that is used for gaming and for virtual reality. You can make a basic space like this one, or you can make a complex one like this one. Really, the only limitation is your imagination. Okay, well, that's it for a little primer here. I'm really excited to show you this, to show you what we have here. And just again, I want to thank you all for being with us today. And I hope that you stick around for this experience. It's just going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a little panel in there, and you'll see some really cool stuff. So I'm very excited about this. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so we're going to take a little break so I can get on my headset and we can get in there. Let's just take about a 4-minute break. We'll play some music for you while we're waiting. You could go take a little stretch break, or even grab a beverage if you'd like to enjoy the reception even more. Okay, so again, hang tight. In about 4 minutes, the program will begin.
So welcome to Olympus. This is the inspiration behind this is it's a campus, and there's two sides to it. So as you're looking ahead here, on the left-hand side, we're looking at the academic side. The idea is that we'd start with the primary school, moving up to the secondary high school, and along to the university. Whereas on this side, we're looking at the industrial and enterprise zone. So this building here is called the Twin, Digital Twin. As we move across, we've got the Twin Towers. So if you'd like to just follow me this way, I'm going to move backwards as we go down the central zone. So the idea behind this central zone, and I think Marty, you were talking about this in your presentation, is education is a complex thing. We can't just keep bombarding students with information and expecting them to regurgitate it. First, give them time to assimilate that information, to discuss that information, and obviously then to embed it within their level of understanding. And of course, to be able to, at some point, be able to build on that knowledge. And so having open spaces to allow students to discuss things and to build on that information is really important. And that's why in the real world, a lot of facilities now build breakout zones and areas where students can sit and can, to assimilate information. So as we're moving through, please keep that in mind, that a lot of this design that George put to this was designing open green spaces. And this model is currently based on realism. Obviously within VR, we don't need to stick to a realist model, but as new people come into VR, we find they're a little bit more comfortable with having some things that are based on realism. But I mean, I'm already thinking about the next build. George has already started experimenting with, space age kind of learning places. So let's head on down. I can see Christmas is already starting over here. So we're going to kind of head this way, guys. If you want to follow me down on this side over here. Find perhaps on university complex, some tents, and again some seating areas students can sit and gather. And obviously in front of us, I mean, the idea behind this, by the way, is it's a concept. So please don't think that any of these buildings have as they need to be. This is basically a prototype. And the idea is, where are we looking?
Right.
Which artwork are we looking at? Sorry, I'm trying to keep
right
up here.
there. Look, I'm not sure what it is. Yeah.
The dog.
I think it's a dog.
The dog. The dog.
It's
yeah,
a
that
dog?
was
Oh,
George
for
who
God's
decided
sake.
to place that there. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why he wanted to place a dog.
It
Yeah, it's a
doesn't look
dog.
like a dog. Okay.
It's a slightly flat-nosed dog, I think. This is mainly a proof of concept. So the idea is that many of these buildings could be switched out, could be personalized, and
Would it
notice that
help
we've
if
put
I
over
turned up his volume full volume?
You notice over in the distance there is the KAIP offices, and that's literally where George intends to position himself for any kind of future builds. Steve, we're going to head now down to the through to the auditorium where I think probably the others are now gathering. So if we head in the middle, I'm not sure. Are our friends at Zoom picking me up? Okay, Steve. I'm going a little bit fast here. It's all okay? Good.
Yep.
I'm hoping that
And
they can still
we are
see
all
us
going to
on
be
the
heading
audio.
over to the auditorium now. Mr. Madsen, I see that you're up to your usual antics. So if you don't mind, we're going to head in that
Follow
direction.
me this way. Follow me this way, guys, where we're gonna get together. See that we're on an island as well. There are many connected bridges and zones beyond the central area that we're looking at. So this world is quite an expanse, and it can be extended depending on what your needs are as well. So there's plenty of open spaces here. If you'd like to just kind of make your way over to the stage area and take a seat in the stands here, and we'll get the next part of the show underway. If you've not been engaged before, the way that you sit is you press on your teleport button on top of the branches and it'll say sit. So if you press your teleport, which is your bottom right button, if you press that over a chair, it should come up with a little symbol that says sit, and then you can you don't have to worry about movement. Then you can position yourselves those stands. Come on in, DP. Okay, cool. I think most of us are all here now, Steve.
Hi, Colleen. I'm next to you. Oh, hi, Carolyn. Can you hear me? Yes. Good to meet you. Oh, we touched. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Hi, Fred.
Colleen.
Hi, Colleen. How are you?
Good,
This
Fred.
is
How are
pretty
you? Hi, Martin.
Hi.
Alex, hi.
George, I've lost George. Where's
Hey, Marty.
George?
Hey, Alex. Hey.
Yeah.
George, are you still with us?
Were you able to manipulate some of the Christmas things?
All right.
Oh, yeah.
If there is
Oh, yeah.
anybody that is lost inside of Olympus, I'd like to request that you come join us over at the auditorium. We are going to resume the next part of our program. Corey will take over. Marty, we need you up on stage here with
Okay.
us, please. Keith, if it's okay, please join us up on stage.
Yep.
And we're going to do a quick little question and answer. Currently, right now, everyone does have an open mic. So, if you have any questions, we probably have time to take one or two questions after Corey kicks things off. And then we are going to try to finish on time today, right at 1/2 past. The big sign off to our friends in Zoom. So, and then the party will continue here inside of VR. So, Corey, please continue.
Right. Hi, everybody. Oh, my goodness. This is so super exciting for me. Hope everybody on Zoom can see me well. Talked a lot about peak experiences. I have to say this, for me, is a peak experience to be here on the stage in virtual reality. These guys. So I really, really appreciate this experience. We don't have a whole lot of time for a Q&A, because I really want to give Chris some time to show us some exciting stuff. So in lieu of a extended Q&A, what I would love to hear just from each of you is just what excites you about virtual reality and what you think of as the future. And also, if you could tie it into education somewhat. Marty, why don't you go ahead and just give us your kind of closing thoughts about VR and Kairos.
Oh, thanks, Corey. This really is exciting, isn't it? And as people get more and more into virtual reality, ENSO Education Institute and Kairos are going to also get into that. I expect by 2025, we'll be doing a lot of events virtually like this. And the world is changing so much that what we want to do is, when the pandemic hit and we had to do what they're still referring to as virtual education, which is slightly different than virtual world education, but we had to make big adjustments. And the world is going to change again like that in the next 25 years, and we don't want to be caught by surprise. So we're going to start now, working through the decade of imagination, and by 2030, have created the generations of young people and the rest of us who are going to be ready for this amazing future that's coming down the road.
Thanks, Marty. Keith, we'd love to hear a little bit from you. I mean, not only are you one of the creators of this space, but you are an actual teacher. You know, you are a practitioner out there. So we'd love to hear about your experience with this and sort of where you see the future of VR going.
Thanks, Corey. And I can only really extend on what Marty's just said there. You know, as the pandemic hit, you know, I was in the classroom. All of my students had to go into lockdown. I myself went into lockdown. And as Marty said, the first thing I did was went onto Google Classroom and various other virtual learning environments. But I think any educator here today would you know, agree with what I'm saying, Corey. The uptake on students actually participating in virtual learning environments was very poor. I had very few students engaging. We weren't doing synchronous teaching. We were asynchronous, so that means that we were putting work online and then hoping that students would complete it and type messages to us. I thought this isn't going to work. So I got together with George. He's down there, at the architect, and I said, George, you know, can you build me something? Can we build something together that I can bring students in and start teaching them? And he said, yeah, of course. So we built a VR School Mark 1, and then it's developed from there. So I got together with Steve. I was really fortunate to meet Steve. We've taken part in a number of competitions so far, and this is where we are today now with this real offering that is a whole campus model. And I think to answer the question in terms of the future, Corey, you know, it's like when people first looked at the car. You know, I think you said this, Marty. When people first looked at the car, they were like, "Oh yeah, these city guys, they might want the car, but you know, I'm happy with my horse and car." You know, we're right on the pinnacle of this. You know, nobody really knows how big this is going to go. I have to give credit to the guys at Immersive Technology, this Engage platform, because this has really revolutionized and changed what we can do. I mean, one of the biggest problems I've had so far is that most of my students don't have headsets. Well, you know, Engage listened to that and they said, sure, you don't need it. We can put it on Android, we can put it on iPhone, we can put it on tablet, we can put it on PC. You give us something and we'll put it on it. And they've done it. You know, here we all are now together, as if we're in a shared space. You know, no other platform can do this. No other, you know, Zoom doesn't really do this for me. I know Zoom has its technicalities, but here we are together. You know, this is for me the future of education.
Thank you so much.
So,
awesome.
Thank you.
Well, I will tell you
slides.
just very briefly, because I want to give Brian an opportunity to speak. It is a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to be here with you all on stage, and of course to have distinguished guests with us here in the audience. Regardless of what sector you're representing when you come in today, I want to thank you for being with us inside of virtual reality, as well as the folks that are outside in Zoom. For me, this is all about human behavior and communication, and so I will echo everything that Keith has said and Marty has said and Brian has said. The truth is, this is the future. We're focused on enterprise learning. We're focused on K through 12 and university learning. But for me, it goes a little bit deeper. You know, I worked at Walt Disney World Resort for 15 years. I consider myself a hospitality professional first. And what I enjoy about spaces like this and experiences like this is bringing people together. You know, when we start to think about this pandemic, I remember the days when I was a manager at Walt Disney World, and we would have showers, baby showers, and wedding showers, and service anniversaries, birthday cakes. If anybody has seen some of the footage from Alvin Grayland from HTC Vive, you know, he had to celebrate his daughter's birthday this past summer, and he was able to do it right here in this place because, of course, he could not travel internationally. So there's so much we can do that goes beyond education. We didn't even open up the door talking about the entertainment experiences that are possible. So I could talk all day, but what I'm focused on and what I'm excited about are some of the, features that Chris is going to show us as soon as he gets an opportunity to do so. So, Brian, please, what do you think, my friend? You've got so much to offer.
Yeah. So here's what I can tell you is that as an Imagineer, I was certainly trained on how to create immersive environments. And, back in the day when I was doing it, we didn't have anything like this. And the principles, though, are still the same. If you're going into the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean or Galaxy's Edge, you're still using all the tools that you can use in VR now, in terms of being able to build just an incredible immersive environment. For me, the thing that really gets me about this is that when you look at combining this to education and being able to create educational experiences for students, I mean, holy cow! I wish I was sometimes still a student and I was able to kind of come in environment and go up to the moon or Mars or go under the ocean or inside the human body. I mean, it's just unlimited to the amazing experiences that all of us can create. All of us can create, and that's one of the things that I love about working with my team from Kairos and from Enzo is that we all come from very different backgrounds, but we all have a very common vision. And all of you who have joined us today, I think that you guys kind of share that vision as well in terms of how can we revolutionize and really kind of some very unique different things. So welcome. I'm looking forward to hopefully working with many of you guys over the years and just kind of taking this as far as we can for ourselves and for our students.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you so much. And thank you all for all those great words. Without further ado, I really think we should bring Chris up here so he can show you some of this great stuff.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for showing up. I got to say, the future of education is experiential education, where you can interact and share experiences with others. I mean, this is the value of the field trip. And now we can take field trips whenever we want to, thanks to virtual reality. The fact that we can do these amazing things like instantly bring in something like fire, just command this to be, and here it is. We are so close, literally right now. We're almost to that point where you can speak what you want to bring into existence, and it will simply happen. We're getting very close to that time. The fact that I can bring in, for example, a city map, just like that, and I can scale that up. So when we're talking about maybe bringing trees and reforesting a city, you can do that in real time. I can enlarge that big enough that we can actually step into that city. I mean, the possibilities are really unlimited as to what we can do. Now, I can pull up my menu. You can't see the menu in front of me, but I've literally just pulled up a menu here, and I can just reach into that menu and, for example, pull in a fish. And I can puppeteer that fish and have it swim amongst the crowd. I mean, you almost feel like a magician doing this stuff, right? And I'll shrink that down. I will make that shareable. You can actually reach in, grab that fish with your hand, pull your trigger and pass that around. Maybe I want to bring in a rainstorm. We can do that too. Let's bring in the sound of rain. I hear the rain. And maybe we can actually make it start raining on us. Here we go. Boom, just like that. We now have rain coming down on the audience. Absolutely amazing.
You got an umbrella, Chris?
I sure do. We just did a major update, which brought in a lot of additional effects. And I know Steve was really keen for me to show some of our chroma key effects. And this is actually going to be the very first time that we've busted out these chroma keys for standalone headsets, Steve. And I'm going to cross my fingers and hope this works for our standalone headsets. This is what we've been developing over the last few days to support the Quest. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot. Let's see what happens.
Chris, you are the mastermind of VR. You are a magician. And if there's anyone that can pull something out of your hat, it will be you, I trust.
And one thing I love is, you can use a web app, our web app. You just log into your account and you can put in your video links and your slideshows. And then with a click of a button, you can bring those into reality. So we're going to, like I said, let's give this a shot here. Here we go. I think this is going to work. And Steve, are you, whoever's on a standalone Quest headset that's not plugged in to a PC, let's give this a try. Here we go. Hopefully this is going to work for you all. Here we go. Look at this.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Right.
working. Wow.
Well, Hart, will you?
Guys, if you are down on, you're welcome to hop up on stage with us, guys. Don't be shy. Everybody up on stage. Come on. Let's get in close here.
Here, I'll bring it on down.
It takes
You guys
guts
come
to
on
do
down
what
here.
we're doing.
Or kidneys.
It takes guts.
Or kidneys.
Excellent.
I just love the chroma key. It brings, now we can bring ourselves in as holograms and give presentations as well. Steve and I were in the other day doing green screen Zoom conversations. It was like I was speaking to Steve as a hologram.
Absolutely.
I can enlarge those, let's put those right up. Look at this.
Wow. Awesome.
To a fish.
Hi, Brian.
How are you doing?
Fine, thanks. It's so exciting to be a part of this.
Yeah. It's just gonna be amazing what we can do here.
Right. Let's get everybody up on stage. Can everybody
Yeah.
come up on
About
stage?
it.
Come on up.
On everybody up. There's some stairs over here. Make it a little easier to come up. All right. Hey, hey, Lisa. Come on over. Thank you so much for that presentation. That's really amazing.
You betcha.
Well, I think it's time to close this out for our folks at home. We can hang out here and have a little after party, but I do want to say goodbye and thank you to everybody who's watching on Zoom. If everybody could just crowd over here. Maybe we can get a picture here of all of us together. Come out, kind of come center stage, everybody. Look out at the audience. All right. There you go. Yeah, come on up. And all right. Everybody give a big wave to the audience at home. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.